why was Ken so frustrated? Why did he find this patriarchal real world so much more beneficial? What was his entire modus of operation the entire movie? He just wanted Barbie's attention. They comment on that at the end.
Right.
But from a different perspective as the audience, you just see that this man is not respected and not valued and not cared about.
Yeah.
And finally he's in the real world. It's like, wow, people like respect me. They consider me like actually a thing. He's she asked me the time. That's like so significant. This poor dude just wanted to be acknowledged.
Right.
And instead of going along that vein, keeping the satirical elements because they create a point.
Right.
Instead of like using that to further his character and bring that back to Barbie Land as a means to reconcile the two opposing ends of this spectrum.
Yeah.
They make a complete and utter buffoonery out of this man and what he's trying to do when all he wants is just a little acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Which he says at as the plot's going on, he just wants a little bit of acknowledgement. He just wants to be seen and heard and do all that stuff. And rather than highlight that as a good thing to want and like you're just going about it the wrong way, that's not what you do. They, again, undercut it with humor and make him this big thing. It's like, no, the patriarchy is all about horses and want to drink beer, want to stay up late and drive big cars and all that stuff. And it's like, oh my goodness.
I definitely agree with you there. I think that was one of like because as the movie was going on, it was something that like a meaning that I was starting to see in the film that I wish like went harder essentially was because obviously Barbie Land is like this, utopia of like a matriarchal society and then like, and even in some ways like that was intentional, right? Ken being the himbo of like, the movie and that him representing a lot of things, his character, but one of them being like, this is how women have been represented in media for decades and kind of flipping the script on that and kind of like, I don't want to say like fighting fire with fire, but like kind of like a mirroring of sorts, like this is how it feels. But also too, then you as a woman being able to see yourself in the character of Ken, right? Because those are things in a patriarchal society that you are experiencing. And so then when it goes to the patriarchal society and kind of like flipping the script and whatnot, I was really hoping at the end of the movie when they were like, oh yeah, okay, the Kens can like come up into like, we'll give them jobs and whatnot and yada yada. Like, I felt like that was a really good moment to kind of like bringing to light and touching on that the matriarchy that then puts down the men of that society is no better in the end to the patriarchy. Like that is not the solution, is the complete opposite, right? The solution is somewhere in the middle. And I wish that was
the message.
Yeah. And I think to your point, using Ken's character more in order to convey that, right?
Rather than his entire character arc being making fun of men. Like that was the purpose of his character, which to an extent is fine. I can laugh at myself as much as the next dude. But if there's no positive reconciliation, because like like you were saying, he's the inverse representation of how women are represented. Now we're just adding syllables. Represented in media and stuff like that. Yeah. But you see in all those movies, they have or I guess recently, they have a positive resolution.
Yeah, and that I think is just like a more like a recent thing. I think it's more like historically, like there's been movies that, that have been like the audience is clearly this movie is for men, like made by men for men, right? And that kind of being like this movie being for women, made by women. And so that kind of being, and there's like, was nothing wrong with them, like kind of flipping it on its head and making Ken this himbo.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And it made like it, I thought it was very cool and interesting. I just wish they like kind of brought it full circle a little bit more.
Completed the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
As they should have, because at the end of the day, like you said, the solution to the patriarchy isn't a matriarchy. And utilizing the strengths and weaknesses of both sides is what we want as a society.
Right.
Right. We don't,
Right.
it doesn't benefit us to continue this polarized conversation
Right.
of
Like,
men versus women, right? Because at least from the narrative and the perspectives that we are coming from, we want to be together.
right.
Right? Men and women want to be together. It makes more sense to figure out how to do that
Yeah.
versus conforming to these really, really aggressive sides of it. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, the solution to all this oppression is to be the oppressors. Like,
Yeah. It's like, I don't.
not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite, because we both need each other.
Right.
We both need each other. And I hated how at the end of it, the resolution was Ken needs himself, right? Stop focusing all your attention on Barbie. Figure out what you want to do for Ken. While that message isn't wrong,
Yeah. Right.
it is very skillfully misplaced within the overall context of his character arc.
Right.
Because you can easily see that if you're so focused on this person that doesn't want you, then focus on yourself, and that will be the solution to that.
Yeah.
And that sounds really good in theory.
Yeah.
But it has to be in relation to the rest of the context. What is Ken to Barbie? Boyfriend,
Yeah.
girlfriend. They are in a actual relationship. They've always were supposed to be in an actual relationship.
Right.
So this more feminist narrative is taking this structure, right? This supposed romantic structure, and be like, women, you can be completely and fully self-sufficient on your own, and you don't need men.
Right.
And men, you just have to like learn how to not require women. Like that's the solution. And I was like, that is not the point. I really wish they could have brought it back and been like, so this man just wants respect from the girl that he's in love with, and this girl may not like want him like that, but she learns to like appreciate him in a way that establishes him as an actual human being, and she
Right.
learns to actually care about him
Which-
in a meaningful way.
Which is an experience that women have all the time.
Exactly.
And which is why I was like, I wish there was so much a better resolution to their relationship, because I was like, if you flip that script, like women want to be respected by their male counterparts, by their male partners. I want to feel valued, like my voice is heard. Like when you're saying like, Ken was asked the time. Oh my gosh, you care about.
I'm a human being.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
wow.
And like that is an experience that women can relate to. And so like, and the same thing, the men Barbie being like, not really caring about their existence, but allowing you to hang around, yada, yada, yada. I wish there was just like more to that resolution of like, okay, because at the end of the day, like you were saying, like we're all existing on this earth. We like to procreate with one another. We rely on each other. Like as like just like and that was what like those elements of like the little montage at the beginning, as I said, when she was sitting on the bus stop, and then even at the very end with all those clips of just like women existing. Like we're humans existing. We're social beings. Community is incredibly important. And yes, community among women is incredibly important, but community in general with fellow human beings. And I wish there was more of like a come to Jesus moment at the end of the movie with like, with what you were saying of like, we rely on one another. And maybe that is like not as female empowerment as people want it to be.
Right.
To be like, men need women, women need men. We all need each other. It's like it's like take the binary out of it. Like obviously we exist differently and we operate differently and we think differently sometimes, but like at the end of the day, we're all humans existing with one another. And the such heavily polarizing conversation and like rhetoric is just at this point in our like feminist movement seems unnecessary. It seems like we need, okay, what's up next,
Why are we still talking about this like it's the 90s?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so strange to me that, because this was a very obviously like female empowerment feminist type of movie. Why is the feminine ideal, according to these people, women being alone?
Yeah.
When that's not what most women want.
No.
Why are they so quick and so constantly trying to preach that narrative about like you don't need anybody and wanting a man is not the goal.
Yeah.
It's so counterintuitive to me.
And I think maybe it's just been blown up like to a more of a generalization. Maybe it started out as like, you know, not needing certain types of men, you know,
or even certain things that men provided usually.
Right. Exactly. Like not relying on men in certain ways. And then even then
through the historical game of telephone, it became
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't need men at all. And it's like, well, we need other people, you know, and like these things are important. Relationships are important. So like, I don't know, that was like a little disappointing to me because they
set it up so well for it to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. They had all like the moments ready right there waiting to just be put together so beautifully in a nice little box and little gift wrap. But they did not take that opportunity.
Just did not do it.
Yeah. And so it was frustrating. And then that's why I was like, okay, you didn't do that. And then even like the whole, like I said, back to American Ferrera's character where they didn't really like flesh out like if that they could have had two storylines going, right? This one, the commentary on the matriarchy and the patriarchy and societal like structures, like et cetera, gender roles, whatever. And then they also could have had this in which that one, they probably wouldn't have had as big of a female empowerment storyline as maybe the audience would want. But then taking that with American Ferrera's character and really zoning in on that experience of the mother, the girl that becomes a woman who becomes a mother, and that cycle and kind of existing in that
real practical, tangible female experience.
Exactly. Right? Really tapping into that feminine and they could have done that with American Ferrera's character and really brought that to fruition. And that could have been the women empowerment statement that I think everyone would have ate the fuck up. I was like, you're giving me crumbs. I need more.
Yeah. And in that too, I don't think it would have been that controversial either.
No.
Right?
I don't think so.
Because again, female empowerment at the expense of men is not as empowering as it sounds.
Right. Because at the end of the day, like when you're interacting human to human, it's like, does that really like sit well with you? Granted, yeah, there are things that like I get frustrated with dudes all the time about, like you just won't get it. And there were certain things like, because we had me and my boyfriend, we had a conversation after the movie and we were talking about it. And there were some things that I had to like just like explain to him. I was like, no, that's not like, actually, I won't say I get it because I don't. There was like a defensiveness to it. And I'm like, well, the movie wasn't for you. And like, it was made for like a heavily like female perspective. And like, so of course you're not going to get it, but that doesn't mean you need to be defensive. And I honestly too, I didn't necessarily feel like Greta Gerwig was trying to attack the man, like the overarching man, as much as I think people took it as it was.
Like as much as people felt attacked by it.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't think it was that aggressive as like, and not my boyfriend. He was just like, I don't really get it. And I was like, okay, let me explain. I just don't think it was as aggressive as people were like being like so defensive about it. I think it was more just her trying to flip the script and like flip it on you and like show you kind of from, you know, like you said, show the inverse of like those experiences that women have. And that's a useful tool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think abusing it.
Well, yeah.
Obviously.
People don't understand satire.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of that frustration, right?
Totally.
Because if you understood it as satire, it's not nearly as offensive as if you're like, wow, I don't know why this director is being so rude to men. Like, we're not that bad. It's like, it's an exaggeration because it's commentary.
Right.
Like, relax. It's
right,
okay.
Exactly.
But I will validate their frustration because of the point I said before, where all the satire would have been fine if it resolved in a way that was practical and meaningful. Because it didn't do that, the satire was kind of wasted. And it kind of made the satire more real than not, right?
Sure. I mean, and I guess I would assume that some people probably think if there was some positive resolution to Ken's character, that would be then catering to the male perspective. And maybe that's why Greta Gerwig stayed away from doing that. But like I said, I think there were a lot of elements of like the human experience that was sprinkled throughout the movie. And I don't know, me as a woman who lives the woman experience, I don't know that I would have taken it as more of just like a human note rather than specifically man, woman.
Why is the man
binary.
why is the man winning that's so anti-feminist?
And if anything too, because like we said, Ken is experiencing the inverse of what women in our real life experience. So his positive resolution would have been a positive resolution for us. That's how I would have taken it.
Or at least like a hopeful expectation.
Exactly.
But if that's not the message that you end with, then and it's really hard to like apply this to the specific person, right? Because who knows why she made the decision that she did?
Yeah.
Probably she was just trying to be funny. Maybe it's not that deep.
Yeah, maybe.
But I wonder what she was thinking in not doing that, because she was so creative in reversing the roles and applying all that stuff to it. And is that the resolution that you feel? Do you actually not want like a positive resolution for this whole like feminist movement? Like the narrative, of course the narrative is so extreme that it doesn't want a positive resolution.
Yeah.
But you as the nuanced human and the writer that handle all these ideas with such profound like inspiration to create a whole movie about it, I would expect a little more from you in the sense that you should be able to reach the conclusion that makes the most sense for everyone and not just the ideas that you're working with.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She definitely didn't put a bow on these characters in a way that like would have been satisfying. Even like going back to like Barbie and her resolution. She goes to the gynecologist in the real world. I have a vagina. Yeah, it was a little like it fell flat a little bit just because, right, like throughout it, she's like, I'm stereotypical Barbie, you know, I exist to like, I am like the perfect like stereotype of like what a woman is, yada, yada, yada. I'm so pretty. Everything is perfect. Oh no, crisis, whatever. It has that whole like experience of like, oh, depression and what is life? What is death? Like all these things. And then kind of towards the end, right, with, you know, Billie Eilish's song overlaying her talk with Ruth and being like, oh, to be human, to have these complex emotions, this is living. It's okay to not feel perfect, be perfect, yada, yada, yada. All good themes. And then it kind of didn't wrap up in like a way.
In a way that made a lasting impact to the character and therefore the audience.
Like it was such for what it was, for what she was trying to give. Like I thought it was like a nice like message. Even like the moment with her with Will Ferrell in the boardroom when he's like, just go back in the box and like be the perfect stereotypical Barbie we all want you to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that. Talking about that was, you know, that was all very cool. I enjoyed that. But then the ending, I was like, like that was it.
It's like jarring.
Yeah, exactly.